Welcome to Highway Herald, your go-to for the latest in auto news. Today, we're diving into the complex world of electric vehicles. Governments are pushing for EV adoption through incentives and strict emissions standards, but it often feels more like an imposition than a choice. Why is this transition stumbling? Join us as we explore the top 7 reasons behind the uncertain future of electric vehicles and what it means for all of us. Reason number 7, the crude reality of oil dependence. Let's delve into a familiar topic, oil dependence. For many in the US and other Western nations, cheap gasoline has historically been a cornerstone of societal stability. However, the dynamics have shifted over the past few decades, leading to more unpredictable gasoline prices. The so-called electric revolution was presented as a solution to provide affordable transportation while reducing reliance on oil. Here's the catch. Despite America's significant oil production, much of it is low-quality crude oil. Most U.S. refineries are optimized for higher-quality imports, like those from Mexico and Venezuela. So, what's the government's strategy? They sell off domestic crude and import refined oil. This approach becomes problematic during global unrest. Ongoing conflicts in Europe and the Middle East have further complicated oil stability, driving prices higher and making energy management more difficult. As a result, Western countries are in dire need of a reliable alternative to ease economic pressures. Unfortunately, current evidence suggests that electric vehicles aren't the solution they hoped for. Reason number 6, the geopolitical game, technology war with China. Next, let's explore the technology war with China. The push for electric vehicles is not just about environmental benefits. It's deeply intertwined with geopolitical dynamics. The electric revolution represents a battleground for supremacy, particularly between the US and China, marking the end of unipolarity. In this multipolar world, China has emerged as a formidable contender. Recognizing that competing with the Western automotive industry through traditional combustion vehicles was unlikely, China pivoted toward EVs. With 2 decades of substantial government investment, China now dominates the EV market, featuring numerous innovative brands and a robust infrastructure. Additionally, China has a significant advantage in critical raw materials and a cost-effective labor force. While the West aimed to catch up through widespread EV adoption, the reality has been different. Western automakers face a steep uphill battle, relying on hefty import fees on Chinese EVs as their only lifeline against fierce competition. Reason number 5, the reality of running costs. Let's talk about running costs. Initially, it was believed that EVs would not only ease the financial burden on governments, but also offer significant savings to consumers. The idea was that as production costs fell, transportation would become cheaper and more efficient. Yet the facts tell a different story. Despite having fewer moving parts, EVs remain costly to produce, leaving legacy automakers struggling to turn a profit. Moreover, they're losing substantial amounts of money on each vehicle sold. From the customer's perspective, the reliability of EVs has also come into question, with recent surveys revealing they encounter 80% more issues than their gas-powered counterparts. One of the biggest surprises? Running costs aren't as low as anticipated. Sure, charging at home can yield savings, but many consumers find themselves relying on public charging stations, which vary widely in pricing. As we continue to push for renewable energy, the costs of electricity, and consequently, EV operating expenses, are likely to rise. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more content like this. Now let's explore reason number 4, the unmet expectation of affordable EVs. Finally, let's address the expectation that EVs would be cheap. Governments have been relentless in their push for electrification, hoping to achieve high production numbers that would lead to lower prices. However, the anticipated shift hasn't materialized. Economies of scale were supposed to be the key to affordability, aided by generous incentives like tax credits and other financial breaks. At the same time, stricter emissions regulations were meant to nudge consumers toward EVs. Yet many in the middle class are resisting this pressure, opting for traditional combustion vehicles. As a result, governments are starting to scale back their support for EV initiatives. With billions invested, automakers are now in a bind, struggling to make EVs financially viable while facing dwindling sales and intense competition. The ambitious plans for widespread EV adoption are crumbling, forcing manufacturers to delay or scrap various programs. Reason number 3, the energy grid's strain and infrastructure challenges. Another significant hurdle to widespread EV adoption is the mounting pressure on energy grids. In 2024, countries like the US and several European nations began struggling to manage the surge of electric vehicles connected to their systems. While marketed as the future of green transportation, many national grids are ill-equipped for the increased demand. In California, for example, rolling blackouts during heat waves have become common as more EV owners plug in during peak periods, stressing the aging infrastructure. Texas faces similar grid challenges, risking exacerbated power shortages without significant upgrades. The charging infrastructure is also lacking. The International Energy Agency, IEA, reports that there aren't enough public fast charging stations for the growing number of EVs. Millions of urban EV owners have limited access to reliable charging, forcing reliance on scarce and often expensive public chargers. Without substantial investment in energy grids and charging networks, the transition to electric vehicles remains a distant dream, making the current pace of adoption feel rushed and unsustainable. Reason number 2. Supply chain disruptions and material shortages. Let's discuss supply chain disruptions and material shortages, an issue that's been lurking under the radar. The production of EV batteries relies on critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, which are scarce and sourced from a few regions. Extracting these materials poses environmental challenges and has sparked geopolitical tensions. In 2024, reports highlighted the fragility of the global supply chain for EV components. Lithium prices surged due to rising demand, while new sources in Nevada faced delays from environmental regulations. Cobalt, primarily sourced from the Democratic Republic of Congo, is mired in ethical controversies regarding labor practices. Compounding the issue, the US and Europe are in fierce competition with China, which has secured a significant share of these vital resources. This dependence leaves Western automakers vulnerable, relying on a supply chain influenced by geopolitical rivalries. Without a stable flow of essential materials, scaling EV production becomes increasingly uncertain. The push toward electric vehicles is hampered by material shortages and the global struggle over critical resources, complicating mass EV adoption more than initially envisioned. Reason number 1. The reality of zero emissions. Finally, let's address the core idea of zero emissions. The goal is clear: achieving sustainable transportation and protecting our planet. However, this journey faces significant challenges, and plans are beginning to unravel. Governments worldwide are pushing for a rapid transition to electric vehicles, often making citizens feel coerced. While incentives may help, outright bans on combustion vehicles leave many with no choice but to go electric. Yet it's becoming clear that EVs aren't as environmentally friendly as once thought. Yes, there are no tailpipe emissions, but what about the entire life cycle? EV production generates substantial carbon emissions, especially from the energy-intensive manufacturing of batteries. Key components rely on rare earth elements, which require significant energy for extraction. Estimates suggest an average EV must travel over 50,000 miles to offset its initial carbon footprint, often taking longer, especially when charged from non-renewable sources. With about 70% of global electricity coming from natural gas or coal, emissions are merely shifting, posing ongoing challenges for sustainability. As we wrap up, what do you think about the realities of electric vehicle adoption? Are the benefits worth the challenges, or are we rushing headlong into a solution that isn't fully baked? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe to Highway Herald to stay updated on the latest vehicle news and upcoming videos. See you next time.